I'd like to welcome everybody to the 2016-2017 In-World OPSPARC Finals. The design reviews today will be with Team 20, Team 3, and Team 14. For the team, just so you realize, there are evaluators here at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center, and there are evaluators also at the National Institute of Aerospace. We will ask that you hold your conversation and your presentation to about 20 minutes, and then we would like to have some time for questions from both of those sites. Team leader Amanda, will you please introduce yourself and then lead us to your team world?
Sure, yes. So I'm Amanda, and I am the lead for Team 20, and I will be leading you to our world. So I believe you just click on the to Team World Transport area, the blue box right in front of us, right underneath the OPSPARC sign, and it will take us to where we can transport to our world. I'm standing right in front of you if you can't see it.
Hello, Team 20. Please begin as soon as you're ready.
Hello, I am David Petroulis, and my team is Team 20 from Lansdowne High School in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and this is our N-World, which will bring us through our engineering design process for our project. So I will hand you off to my good friend Noah here for step one. Hello, my name is Noah Freiling. I will be guiding you through step one of our in-world, which is the problem. So our problem was that there was a growing amount of forest fires all over the planet that are consistently starting to appear more often, cause more damage, and cost more money than ever before. So as you can see on the graph above, with the red line representing the number of fires, that has gone down slightly, but the blue line that represents the acres burned has gone up dramatically since 2010 to around 9,221,639 acres burned in 2012. Then the sign below it representing the amount of money that the Forest Services and interior agencies has spent on forest fires within the last 25 years. And as you can see, it's a constant growth of the amount spent. And then our last graph shows that the amount or the budget for the Forest Services is constantly being taken up by the amount of forest fires being caused for prevention, care after and before. Excuse me, my mic's not good right now. I'm sorry. Objectively, this massive loss of property and life is horrible and becoming a real problem, with seemingly each year receiving a larger quantity of fires and each one causing more harm and costing more money. In our world today, we will be going through our possible solutions to how we can curb their large growth and how we can make fires that occur smaller and less destructive in the future.
Where would you like us to go next?
You can follow me. I will hand you off to my good friend Paul, talking about constraints we had to deal with when coming up with our solution.
So, hi, my name is Paul, and I'll be talking to you about the constraints and challenges that we had to overcome during the design process. The first obstacle that was very obvious to us from the word go was going to be expenses that we would accumulate during building the drone. So we had to make sure that the design would be realistic and that it would function properly, because we know our main market is going to be fire departments and forest services and interior services of the government, and most of their funding comes from taxpayer money. So we wanted our design to be efficient so that we wouldn't be wasting taxpayer money. So we made our design so that, keeping in mind that we need to keep operating costs low, we decided to use materials that weren't very expensive, and we tried to optimize the design to make it as efficient as possible. One of the ways we did this was when we first designed the drone. We had it being powered by solar panels, but we later switched to having it be powered by hydrogen fuel cells because we thought it would be more realistic. Okay, if you will now follow me over to Nick, he will explain to you the next step in the process.
Hello, my name is Nicholas. You can call me Nick. I'll be explaining what we went through to brainstorm the idea and stuff. So once we had our constraints in place and we identified our problem, we began to brainstorm ideas and stuff, think outside the box. So we came up with three main ideas that all kind of spawned from each other. So our first idea was to use infrared sensors in the forest to detect heat. We eventually eliminated this idea because if the infrared sensor gets damaged due to fire, it's expensive to replace, and it's a lot of manual labor to go out and place them in the forest. So then we thought of it, and we thought, well, the best vantage point to look at a forest would be from above, so we then decided that a plane would probably be the best solution. So the first iteration of this was to use a military jet, where a pilot would fly the plane and we'd have an infrared sensor on the plane. We eventually eliminated this idea because of potential dangers to the pilot, because smoke can produce a lot of turbulence and heat and stuff, so if the jet happens to go down, then the pilot could perish. So our second iteration of the plane, which was our final solution, was a drone with an infrared sensor attached to it. The drone is the best solution in our minds because of its it's very lightweight. There's no potential dangers to humans. It's remotely operated. It's easily modifiable too. So with all these in mind, we decided to choose the drone. Now, if you can follow me, we will discuss our eventual design, step 4 of the drone. So once we had our main idea, we began to design it, or roughly design it. So we chose a plane that slightly smaller than that of many military drones because of its lack of equipment compared to them. So we decided that we needed to use certain things from the James Webb Space Telescope. We needed to use the infrared cameras to detect fires. We need to use the cryocooler to keep the infrared sensor operating at optimal temperatures. And we also originally used solar panels to gather power, but we eventually eliminated this, as we'll discuss later on. So if engineers and firefighters and people in the government are armed with this information, then we can more effectively fight fires and be less wasteful in our resources. As opposed to just dumping, say, water all over the forest, we can dump it at the source and prevent it from spreading, similar to how we do now, but to a much more efficient and precise degree. So now we will move on to step 5, which we will introduce the James Webb Space Telescope. If you make a right, the hallway. So the James Webb Space Telescope is a telescope being designed by NASA meant to directly replace the Hubble Space Telescope, and with all of its great science that it's already done. It's a cooperation between NASA and the European Space Agency and the Canadian Space Agency, and it's been worked on for many years, in 1996. So once the spacecraft is launched in late 2018, it will be placed in the Lagrange 2 point behind the Moon and the Earth. This provides a more stable position, and so what the point of the James Webb Space Telescope is to replace what Hubble's already done. So with the infrared sensors and the larger primary mirror, not only does it give us a more clear view of dimmer objects, but it more clearly shows objects that are older, so galaxies and other objects with a very high redshift show up more easily in infrared because they approach the more red wavelengths. So this will allow us to understand the origins of our universe, and because of its infrared capability, this will also allow us to look for other bodies outside of our solar system that may not be shine brightly in visible light. So now I will hand you off to David, and he will discuss the drone.
Alright, thank you, Nick. If we go to the left side of the room for step 5, this is... Sorry, I cut out there. So behind you, or in the center of the room, is one of the first iterations of the infrared drone. This is what it may look like, which will assist in fighting wildfires. This infrared drone will be able to detect forest fires with its IR sensors, and it will be able to detect the source of these forest fires. It'll be useful in areas that are hot and dry. So in the United States, those are like western, midwestern states where more forest fire disasters occur annually. So the infrared drone would be used there to detect these fires and locate alert authorities to go to where the fires are to put them out. So yeah. And I will hand you off back to Nick to talk about our math and science behind our infrared drone. Thank you.
So over here we have the calculations. I'm not going to go in depth into them, but if you want to read them, feel free. So to begin, we needed to get dimensions and more exact specifications for the plane. So we need to identify wingspan, body length, and the airfoil that we're going to need for the wings. So we gave each wing a length of 40 feet, giving us a rough wingspan of 80 feet. And our body length was 32 feet. The wings, we used the S1223 airfoil, which gives a very high lift-to-drag ratio, and it also has a very low profile, so the wings will not weigh much, so it's optimal for drones or gliders. So essentially we used many forms of calculus to calculate the surface area of the plane with approximation formulas. And with the surface area, we were able to calculate the weight by multiplying the surface area by or getting the product of the surface area and the density of the material, which the material that we used was a grade 5 titanium alloy, which is a mix of about 80% titanium and vanadium and aluminum, respectively, in that order. So adding all these numbers up with the total surface area and the body, if you follow me up here, we get a rough weight of about 4,000 pounds, or 4 tons, which is a respectable weight for many aircraft, or more lightweight aircraft. So once we had our specifications for dimensions and weight of our aircraft, we were then able to calculate lift. We used some software to calculate or simulate the airfoil for the coefficient of lift, which is something that's not easy to calculate by hand. And for the lift, we plugged in numbers that we estimated the aircraft be running at, like height and speed. So we estimated that the aircraft be operating at about 15,000 feet, which is below 23,000 feet, where turbulence is more prominent in the atmosphere, so the spacecraft or the aircraft will fly more efficiently. And we also, at that altitude, we use a Reynolds number of about 1 million and a velocity of about 98 feet per second. These are the speeds that we expect the aircraft to run at. So plugging all these in, we get a lift force of about 6,300 pounds, which is much greater than the weight of our body. And this proves many things. It proves that our plane can fly at slower velocities, and it can fly at higher altitudes, and also that it flies in general. So I will now hand you over to Noah, and he will discuss the right side of room 5. Paul, my bad. Hand you off to Paul.
Okay, so follow us back down the stairs to where the model is. I will explain to you. I'll explain to you how we use the components from the James Webb Space Telescope. So the first, the component of the James Webb Space Telescope that was central to our design were the infrared sensors. We decided to use these in our design because near infrared wavelengths, when being used to look at an area, makes smoke invisible, and when looking at an area through mid-infrared wavelengths, it shows the heat of the object. Normally on the James Webb Space Telescope, as Nick mentioned earlier, they're used to see galaxies that are moving on the infrared spectrum more clearly than the Hubble can. Okay, and now I'm gonna give you to Noah to let him explain the other components we used.
We also use the cryo cooler, and we decided to use the cryo cooler because when it's used on the James Webb Telescope, it's used to cool the instruments to make sure that the instruments are always functioning accurately and correctly. And so we decided to use the cryo cooler for the same purpose because we didn't want it to be inaccurate with its findings or readings. And we had originally planned, as discussed earlier, to use solar panels as our original fuel source, but we decided, in something we're going to talk about in a little bit in our constraints, that it wasn't really feasible for what we were going after, and so we decided to replace it with hydrogen fuel cells. If you'll follow me back outside, we will talk about the constraints and what we changed due to constraints. So for our testing, we did our calculations as we shown earlier, and when evaluating our drone, some strengths of our drone we came up with was that it was lightweight and small and very aerodynamic, which was used to conserve energy, and then unlike a satellite, the drone could be more precise and the calculations of the source of the fires because the sensors have closer readings on the flames. But some of the weaknesses we thought was that the cost of the drones and its various parts combined to be quite expensive, and solar panels don't work during the night, and so if there was a fire during the night, it wouldn't be able to fly, and also we found hydrogen fuel cells, which we found to be a lighter and more realistic opportunity. So when it came to change, when it came to changes due to constraints, we originally thought we would change solar panels to hydrogen fuel cells for many of the reasons mentioned earlier. And did our design solve the problem? Overall, the infrared drone does in fact solve the problem of locating wildfire sources and being able to minimize their effect and their destructive capabilities. Now I will hand you off to Paul to talk a little more about the design and our team.
So when we started with this project, the first step in the process was to make a glog. So when we were making our glog, we came up with the original sketch that you saw in step 4. We have since made many changes to that, such as removing the solar panels, and we changed the location of the propellers from having one on each wing to having one propeller in the center. And for the glog, we also made a video where David explained the design and the measurements of the drone. If you would like to see that, you can click on the white box in the middle, and that will begin playing for you. I will, however, preface that video with some of the measurements have been changed. And now I would like to talk to you about skills we developed. So David participated in this competition last year. So we came in this year knowing more what to expect. But we did still learn things from our experiences this year. And I think it helped that we were more successful this year. But some of the skills we developed were learning how to work around people's schedules, because many of us do have other extracurricular activities that we participate in, especially Nikki does multiple after-school activities with band. And we also learned, we also got to practice our rendering and modeling skills, because Nick and David were both working on a model at one point, but we never, unfortunately, were unable to put it in Worlds. Nick also got a good opportunity to practice his calculus, his applied calculus. He enjoys calculus a lot, so that was probably a very fun experience for him. Recommendations we have for any participants next year would be to manage their time wisely, because a lot of the time, or often enough, we would be working on something that would be due on the very last day we were going to be able to work on it, and we didn't orchestrate any times we could work outside on the project outside of school, which we definitely could have done better. And I think if teams could do that, had an opportunity to do that next year, I think that'd be very beneficial to them. Another very important thing we learned is that it's important to stay in contact with your mentors, because they can offer good advice, especially on deadlines and things that need to be included before the next deadline. And one other thing that we learned this year is that having a team leader, uh, like having team leaders that choose the other team members wisely is very important. Because if David and I had chosen people that we wouldn't have gotten along with well, or that we would have just talked to the whole time, we would have never gotten anything done. But choosing Nick and Noah to compete with us this year they were very good choices.
Alright, so it's me, David again. So we're just gonna go through this big blue and green room that says our NASA OPSPARC team, and if you go to the left, I will hand you off to, I believe, and he will talk a little bit about himself. Hi, my name is Noah Freiling. I'm 16. I'm in the 10th grade at Lansdowne High School. In my free time, I enjoy reading, studying every now and again, watching TV and playing video games. I'm interested in becoming a chemical engineer or becoming a genetic engineer. I plan to either attend the University of Chicago, Oregon, or Virginia. And during this project with my teammates, I was in charge of writing and building much of the beginning parts of the world and then fleshing it out later. And now I believe I will hand you off to Nick.
Hello, I am Nicholas, or you can call me Nick. I am in the 11th grade at Lansdowne High School, and on my free time, I love to study math, code, and importantly, astrophotography, which is a big inspiration on this project. I love astronomy, and just space is fascinating to me. In my college years, as of now, I plan on attending either Princeton, and MIT, or Virginia Tech to study computer science with a potential major in astrophysics, because why not? And I will now hand you off to David.
Alright, hello, my name is David, and this is my second year for NASA OPSPARC. I'm a 10th grader, 15 years old, and in my free time I enjoy cooking, reading, biking, folding origami, and my favorite subjects in school are science and robotics. In the future, for college, I would like to attend Virginia Tech, and I would like to either become an environmental engineer to challenge climate change, or a marine engineer to design robots which will map the deepest places and corners in our oceans. I was in charge of public relations and communications with our college mentors and the wonderful Sharon Bowers, and I was also in charge of the language used for some of our presentation. And now I will hand you off to Paul.
Hello, my name is Paul Teresi. I'm a 10th grade student at Lansdowne High School, and I'm 15 years old. This is also my second year of doing the NASA OPSPARC Challenge. My favorite pastimes include reading books, playing video games, not failing classes, and watching classic movies with my parents. After I graduate high school, I would like to go to Virginia Tech to study biomedical engineering so I can help people who have major health problems. I was responsible for researching statistics for the problem of wildfires in America and for researching specifics for our drone. And now if Amanda would like to tell us a little bit about herself, she can.
Yeah, I'm Amanda McAteer. I'm a senior at William & Mary, majoring in marketing as well as environmental science with a concentration in sustainability. I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing next year yet, but graduation is coming up, so looking into some marketing positions at hopefully a sustainable energy firm, hopefully in DC or New York. And I'm really happy that we were able to share the work that my team has done with you today.
Alright, so unfortunately Thomas wasn't able to be here because Amanda told us that he was busy taking a final. So we wish good luck to him. We wish good luck to him on that. And I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for giving us some time in the day to just look at our project. We really enjoyed working together as a team, talking to our mentors, things like that. So thank you. And if you have any questions, concerns, comments, you could just ask away.
I'd like to first ask at the National Institute of Aerospace, Tori, are there questions from any of the engineers and the educators there?
Mic on?
Yes.
Okay. Hi guys, this is Chris Jones at the National Institute of Aerospace. It's a really cool concept. I'm curious, do you have an idea for like how many square miles one of your drones can sort of cover or survey each time it's flying around before it has to land and recharge?
We have not done the exact calculations or even estimations on it, but if we had to make a rough estimation off of our back, we would expect that we could probably at least go all night or all day, so probably about 24 hours at most before we need to recharge. But as I said, we are unsure of this.
Okay, thank you.
And distance, it should be able to cover most of the area, but again, not sure.
So
Probably about 200 square miles.
Okay, thank you. One other question here in the room is, how did you go about sizing the wings and the control surfaces for your drone to figure out how big they would be?
So, to size the wings, we didn't do too much testing, but we knew that we needed wings that would have a sizable surface area relative to the body, and the body did not have to be large at all, because it doesn't have much in its sense of cargo. So we essentially looked at many specifications for other drones and gliders, and kind of got a general idea, and got the assumption that 40 feet worked. We did test a few other sizes. We tested 20 feet, 30 feet, and then 40 feet. 40 feet produces the best lift, and also to look up the airfoil to use, just pulled up a database online of airfoils and looked at many that were optimal for long gliding with low power motors. Since the plane is low cargo, we anticipated a smaller motor. So the S123 seemed to suit our purpose quite well, with a very high lift to drag ratio of about 50, I think it was. So yeah.
Okay, thanks. And one more question here. Do you have any kind of cost estimate for building and or operating the drone?
We were unable to find the prices for many of the materials. And the ones we could find were quite expensive, so we don't have an exact estimate, or even a rough estimate, unfortunately. Or we might, hold on, if you'll give us a second.
So I actually found it in my notes. So our rough cost would be about $40,000. The titanium was the least of our worries. The most expenses came in the camera, given that it's high precision and accuracy. The motor was a smaller portion of it, but like I said, most of the cost just came in the motor and the cameras, the body, and the wheels were a lower portion. So about $30,000 is what we came up with.
So was that estimate to build it, or is that the amount it would also cost to operate it per flight, or do you have an idea of how much it might cost per flight to operate it once you have built it?
No, we do not. The cost just is for building it, but hydrogen fuel cells do last a while, so replacing them would be less of an issue. So yeah.
Okay, thanks. I don't think we have any more questions here.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. We do have a few questions from the NASA Goddard Space Flight Center. Who would like to go first?
Is the mic on?
I think so.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Okay, great. I'm Maggie Massetti. I'm at NASA Goddard. I work on the James Webb Space Telescope. I wanted to piggyback a little on the range question, because when you're thinking about detecting forest fires, you know, how much forest you can cover. I was wondering if you looked into legally what the max altitude we could fly a drone at, and are no-fly zones going to be an issue for this drone?
Well, typically we're flying in forests, so I mean flying over government property or restricted air zones should not be too much of an issue. We know that the number of restricted air zones is increasing, so we did not look into that, but it's a good question. Also, maximum altitude, we projected the drone flying at about 15,000 feet. We do not know the maximum altitude for flying a drone, but we do know that most drones fly at altitudes much higher, so that gives us some confidence.
I was wondering if you could walk me through like what happens when a fire is detected. Like, how does this sensor actually work? So you have a drone flying over a forest. Do they just monitor all the time, or are they just continuously coming over forests searching for some sort of a signal? And if so, what happens when it detects a fire?
So yeah, we thought that the best way to use these drones effectively would be to have them going at all times, and when they did detect a higher heat than normal, an alert would go out to fire services to alert them to investigate. Next question, please.
Looked into the advantages of, sorry, now. I was wondering if you looked into the advantages of that near infrared versus far infrared. What to you made near infrared a good choice for detecting fires, and how sensitive do you think your detectors would have to be to detect like an early fire?
So, using near infrared, it gives us the advantage of seeing through the smoke, which is one advantage that Hubble uses. So near infrared allows us to see the fires and how brightly they shine. So they would shine quite brightly in the near infrared spectrum. And using mid infrared, it shows heat quite well, and as well as far infrared, it shows lower temperatures. So using the mid-infrared, it would show a general heat map of the forest too, while the smoke would be heated up too, so smoke is no longer invisible. I am. There. Using the near-infrared gives us a good map, a good pinpoint of where the fires are, and mid-infrared gives us a good idea of the heat and the heat map of the forest. Next question.
Thank you.
We have one last question from NASA Goddard.
Hi guys. I'm wondering how you're going to prevent any false alarms. Are you going to be sensitivity targeted for campfires? What if someone has like a bonfire going?
So our plan was that when an alert like that does go off, we have someone come over the data first, and then they send out an alarm based on what that person thinks is going on. So if it seems like a normal campfire situation or something that is controlled or that is meant to be going off in that sort of situation, then they will report it as a false alarm or go send someone to investigate if need be. But if they deem that it's a potentially hazardous situation, they'll send an alarm out to emergency services or forest services, whichever is nearest, to go put it out and investigate.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Team 20, for all of your information, for all of the hard work that led to this presentation as well. We're going to go back to the portal to meet up with the next team, and we just want to commend you for all of your hard work, for your cooperation as a team, and for your interest in this challenge from the very beginning. Please pat each other on the back. Thank you, Team Leader Amanda, and please let Thomas know we appreciate your work as mentors. And we're going to return back to the portal to meet up with Team 3 for the next presentation. Thank you very much, Team 20.